So I saw a video from a friend of mine who's an atheist, and he was talking about how that a friend of his asked him how he came to the conclusion of being an atheist. So my friend sits down and he gives his friend the most thoughtful, detailed response he can think of. He wants him to know that he put in the hard work, he put in the effort, he had read and studied all of it. He wanted him to know all of the inconsistencies that he had found and all of the fallacies he found in the arguments. And he said he really sat there and worked at it and gave him a long, thoughtful response as to why he became an atheist. And when he was finished, the friend looked at him and said, "Yeah, well, what if you're wrong?" Just gave him Pascal's wager. Now, I'm an agnostic. I can't count the times that that's happened to me. I can't count the times that I've sat and told someone why I came to the point I'm at in my life, and they'll say to me, "Well, what if you're wrong?" I've always noticed that people of faith, and I'm not saying that everyone is this way, I have met people of faith who are really educated in their belief system. But a lot of people I've met that have faith know the least about the Bible. I have sat and had conversations with atheists and agnostics where I learned more about the Bible than I did sitting under most ministers. Atheists and agnostics are people who have really deep dived and really studied it and really worked hard to come to the conclusion that they come to. I've never met an atheist who would just like nonchalantly go, "Yeah, I don't believe it. Yeah, I never really dug into that and I never saw no reason to." No, they dug in. They read it. And the more they read it, the more they realized they couldn't get behind it. That's what happened to me. People says, "Well, what did you do? Did you read a book by an atheist?" Yeah, later on I did. Later on I dove in and I read Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris. But at first I just read the Bible. I just read the first 4 chapters of Genesis. I did a video for my members only where I broke down the first 4 chapters of Genesis because I've always said that right there in those first 4 chapters, there's so much inconsistency. There's so many holes in those stories that those first 4 chapters would cause anybody to scratch their head if you really stopped and really focused and read them. But when you start talking with people of faith and you ask them questions like, "Wait a minute, how did Cain take a wife if there was no other people on earth?" "Well, there must have been other people. God must have made them too." They've always got these built in, "Well, God must have done it." From the very start of the Bible, in Genesis chapter 1, everything is, well, God made the light, God made the dark, God saw it was good, God said it was so. There's never any explanation behind it. There's never any evidence behind it. There's nothing. It's just God did it, and you should believe it. My favorite line of the whole first chapter is, "And he made the stars also." Because I just picture whoever was sitting there writing that book, someone said, "Well, wait a minute, you said he made the sun and the moon, but what about the stars?" "Well, he did that too, buddy." It just comes off that lazy to me. And when I talk to people who are atheists and agnostics, I get people talking to me who challenges my thinking and who knows more about the Bible than most ministers. And then when I go over and talk to a lot of people of faith, they really don't know the book that they're reading. They're just believing in it for fear of dying and going to hell. So I could easily turn it on them, and I have a million times and said, "Well, what if you're wrong? I mean, you believe in the Christian God, but what if the Muslims are right? Then you're going to hell with me too. What if other groups have got it right? What if other branches of Christianity have it right and your brand isn't the right one?" That's the easiest question ever to ask, but it doesn't take any work or any effort to even be a believer. All you got to do is just raise your hand and say you believe. And it's one of the only places in the world where people with no experience in their field can become a leader. Anybody can become a preacher. All you have to do is say, "I was called to preach. I had a vision. The Lord laid it on my heart. My daddy had a dream about it," whatever. That's all you have to say, and you're in. Now picture this. Picture you go in for heart surgery, okay? And you sit down and the doctor's going to split you open, all right? Would you want a kid that just had a calling to be a surgeon to cut you open? No, you would want a surgeon who was well experienced. You would want somebody who had had thousands of successful surgeries. You would never want to just put your life in the hands of some kid who just had a vision one day. But yet people goes to buildings every week and they sit down in front of people with no experience whatsoever that have never read the book, never deep dived it, never studied it, don't know where it came from, don't know who wrote it, don't know who edited it, don't know who re-edited it, don't know who retranslated it. They know nothing about it. And then when you say to them, "Hey, you don't know anything about what you're talking about here. You're just spewing a bunch of beliefs that you were taught. You're just repeating a bunch of talking points. Oh, well, what if you're wrong, buddy? Don't question me." And it just turns into I don't understand why anyone would want that. To me, it turns into a dangerous brand of rhetoric because now you're just believing something. You're just going on blind faith and you're hoping it's right. And at the end of the day, who's going to know? Who's ever going to know? No one's ever came back to tell us how it was. And for anybody that says, well, somebody, had a near-death experience. Yeah, people have near-death experiences all the time, and they see shit. And they see shit that they were taught to believe in as kids. Okay, if you live here in America, you have a near-death experience, there's a good chance you probably saw Jesus. If you lived overseas, good chance you probably saw Muhammad. That's just because it's how you were raised. I could sit here and go on and on about that all day, but just start paying attention to who you're talking with. When you talk with an atheist, listen to how deep they've dived into the Bible and listen to how deep they've studied it, and then go find some youth minister somewhere and see how far he's studied. And you'll be amazed at how much more the atheist knows about it than the youth minister or the pastor does.